And I don't know if I'm just like, again, I've been just doing this too long, but I just know too many people that won't click and buy on social ads anymore.
It all started with a rumor, a whisper about a private WhatsApp chat where 9-figure entrepreneurs swapped insights, information, and deals behind closed doors. And now, for the first time ever, these operators are pulling back the curtain on their clandestine world right here on this podcast. You're about to witness something truly remarkable. A glimpse into the minds and businesses of the world's most successful operators. So sit back, relax, and stay glued to your headphones. The chat is about to begin.
I mean, you're totally right that TV lends credibility, right? Like when you run a TV spot, like if you're over 10 years old, you're like, oh yeah, that means something, right? Because that, like, being a TV actor meant like you were famous, right? The other thing is this idea that like ad degradation over time, right? If you allow shitty advertisers who have shitty products and bad experiences, you eventually become taboola. Everybody reads listicles on the internet. If you Google something and there's a New York Times article, like you read it, you know, you're going to see like people in California can save $18,000 off their Social Security with this one trick, like the worst quality ads that are like scamming you. Nobody clicks those because they know they're scams, right? And you could, the fear is that could totally happen to Facebook. But I do think they are going to up ad quality. And I mean, a big thing they talked about is that like when you're scrolling, they basically it's 1 second of decision to figure out what ad to show you, right? If that's the ad auction. And they're like, because of, you know, they're like, their big thing was that we used to have 400 models we ran, and now we have 200. And because of advancements in AIs and chips we're working on, those 200 models can run 10 times as many data points in that 1 second. So they're like, we are going to get to the point where we're going to show the perfect ad at the perfect time, right? And I asked my team this, like my Facebook team on Disruptors, you get like 2 reps that only work on a couple accounts. And I'm like, hey, could Facebook right now show you the perfect ad that they know you're going to buy, but they don't do that because it creates people leaving the web experience? Like, click-through rate's always 1%, right? You know, 0.5 to 2%. Could they get a 12% click-through rate, but they don't because they know people would leave too often?
Good question.
Yeah. They said they're not there yet, but that is the future as we go through spatial computing and, you know, more intrusive ads and more personalized experiences. Like, you get shown 5 ads a day and you buy all of them. Like, and you give a 90% commission to Meta or whatever, because like, you know that they drove those exact 5 sales. That is the Ready Player One version of this. But like, you know, I do think ad quality will improve over time if they don't cut their fucking nose off to spite their face.
I don't disagree.
There's another element to, like, you know, I've seen material correlations will say when we really ramp spend, our Google search volume definitely has a corresponding bump. So I think some of it, Sean, is that there's a certain portion, and I don't know how big this portion is, of people that are just saying, I don't want Facebook to see what I clicked, but that's interesting, and I want to look at that. And clearly they see the ad, they're served the ad, it drives behavior. They just don't want to register that in, you know, Big Brother's database. And so I don't know how big it is, but I've seen enough of a correlation with our search volume moving and ad spend that it's material.
Okay. Well, last point, I'll stop talking. I like Marty. Like, Marty thinks I don't like him. I love Marty. He's a great guy. He tweeted out, he's like, you know, I've known people throughout my life who don't use the in-app experience. I use Twitter on my mobile browser, and it makes me so mad. He's like, you should use the app. The reason why I do that is because I Google things so often. I just want one app. Like I don't want to have to leave Twitter and go open up Chrome and Google something. So I just want it all in like that one master app, right? So that's why I do it. And I don't to tack it on to Mike's point. It's like, maybe I don't click Facebook ads. Maybe I just Google shit to buy stuff because I like to buy things through Chrome. My cards are saved, whatever.
Yeah.
And that customer behavior is hard to change. So Facebook just wants credit for that. That's why they're building, or pushing MMM so hard.
It's interesting, Mike. Our organic search volume, the most meaningful thing that drives search volume for us is TV ads.
Mm-hmm.
We've proven it time and again. It doesn't drive like that one click, first view purchase. But again, like Jason, we talked about last time, like nobody's dropping $400 or $500 on their first visit. Consumers just don't do that. Which it goes back to the whole Facebook thing. Like, I think it's in Facebook's best interest to constantly improve ad quality and to solve the trust thing. Like, they can't have that erode. And I do believe that MMM is where we all have to go. Like I've been spending money online for 15 years, like long before the fucking Facebook pixel came along. And you used to have to run models, and like a lot of that time was like in-store purchase, and you had to use, like, incrementality was part of the conversation, right? Like, you run TV ads and then you look at your sell-through by door in a Walmart or a Target or wherever else you were, right? So it's natural that we go back to that, because that is actually how, like, large brands scale.
Well, and here's the thing. The problem really that we're all coping with is that the world is so freaking complex that you can't simplify it easily into numbers. Like, if you deconstruct how you make a single decision, there are so many different twists and turns involved, right? Oh yeah, my friend had it and told me they liked it, and then I saw it, I saw 5 seconds of a TV commercial, and then I swiped past an Instagram ad, and then, yesterday I saw another thing and I finally clicked. And it's like, okay, who gets credit? How much credit? How do you even think about that? Well, I don't know. It's complex. It's, there's a lot of different pieces to it. One really simple example, back when we ran Quibids, was we really did great with TV for a long time. And then, man, the CPAs kept climbing. And we did some cost benefit analysis, and we started thinking, hey, cutting off TV is probably better for us. We cut off TV, and it was far worse for the business than we thought. Why? Because part of what that TV commercial did is it reminded the existing customers. It kept us front of mind. And it's hard to measure, right? Like, that's not the way that we typically think about conversion, but it kept it front of mind. It kept them coming back to the site. When the TV commercials aren't running, all of a sudden they're not doing it. And so your economics end up way worse than you would have predicted. This is what we're all struggling with, is we live in a complex, very multi-channel type of world. And when you try and look at one simplistic assessment of it, especially something like the Facebook pixel that literally cannot see what's going on inside of Amazon's walled garden. It can't see all of the other different data points. I'm sure if it could, I'm sure if Amazon, opened the kimono, so to speak, and said, hey, Facebook, here's all our data, and Target, and they all kind of came together, I'm sure you could build one unbelievable, attribution system, but that's just not going to happen because it's not.
You're going to love today's Panzerism, Mike, because there's a bunch of borderline stealing thunder. But we're going to.
Why don't we get to it, Sean? Do you want to get to it? Or do you want to?
We got to get this top of funnel stuff, but do we want to talk more about your second day, Sean? Or are you done on that?
We want to talk about the second day. We'll hear for different.
I want to hear second day.
I got so much stuff I got to add on here. Okay, so the first thing is, everyone's mad at ASC because it's not driving new customers. They're like, it's such a huge percentage of returning customers, right? And why is that? It's because those people want to buy again. It's like, Mike, you're 100% right. Like, yeah, our TV ads actually drove our existing customers who aren't checking email or forgot about us to come back. Like, oh yeah, I did like that. And that's what Facebook ads do too. We're like, no, we're just like, you should have a campaign for just new customers. And I totally get that, right? That could be your top of funnel campaign. That could be something else. But like, ASC is designed to just try to make money. It is literally a black profit box. It wants you to put $1 in and make $2 come out. And yeah, unfortunately, that profit box really likes people who've already given you money because that's guaranteed profit. So I just think there is a place for that. I think people blow that out of proportion. The second thing I want to tie in that I was just dying to, day one, they talked about partnership ads, used to be branded content ads, whatever, like basically running an Instagram ad with an influencer, tying it to Matt and ad quality. They are pushing that very hard. They're like, people need to do this. And I do think it is because that improves ad quality, right? Because the influencer won't work with you if you're a scam, right? And people want to see that ad more. It's a real person presented in a real authentic way. So I do think they keep ad quality top of mind. And Mike, you're dropping some old school wisdom that's like, yeah, you should remind your customers that they like you. Like, we're so focused on it. Oh, go ahead.
We're talking about meta. I will get outside of e-commerce. I will get meta and just make a point about the world. Okay. Our brains are really having trouble keeping up with the complexity of the world around us and how quickly it's changing. And we really think about the world in terms of stories, and we like things to be simple, and we like there to be simple narratives. And the problem is that's just not how anything actually works. And so, like, anybody listening to this, whether you're thinking about how you're spending ad dollars or anything else, your political beliefs or anything else, the people that want to push these really simple and elementary thought processes that try and explain everything, you should tune them out, because it's just not true. Like, this stuff isn't simple. Like, the stuff we're talking about, the reason why there's so many different people involved in marketing, and there's all these attribution tools like Northbeam that try and help us make sense of it all, and the way we can talk for episode and episode after this stuff, it's because it's really freaking complicated. And that's what you're getting compensated for. That's where the alpha is. That's why we make money. Our job is to look at all that complexity, not try and find some simplistic narrative, but be able to deal with nuance, be able to be experts at understanding where the differences and the opportunities are. So I just think it's a general life principle that I'm trying to remind myself of constantly. Simple and direct and unnuanced is attractive to my brain. It's just not particularly helpful in the world we live in.
Cue Taylor Holiday, it depends. We'll slam that meme in. Okay, literally last point. I asked someone, a VP at Facebook, why Amazon continues to have a walled garden. Because I'm like, Amazon doesn't like Apple that much either. Like, why don't they just let you put their pixels there? And the real takeaway is because Amazon's ad business is the only growing part of their entire company right now. Like, AWS, I don't think is growing that fast. Ads business is actually growing faster. It's billions of dollars. And those ads are probably very, very ineffective. And if you saw that all of your Amazon, sales were coming from Facebook ads, you would just shift all of that budget to Facebook. So I do think, in an industry full of hustlers, charlatans, and grifters, Amazon ads, specifically Amazon DSP, is one of the biggest of them all. So I'll stop. Let's go to the Panzerism, right?
Wait, we're not doing top of funnel?
Well, let's do it after. Yeah, I think, Jason, because it sounds like you're going to have something that's very close to
You teased us, Jason. We got to hear it.
Now I'm just curious.
All right. Well, we'll see. We'll see if I can deliver. I mean, Mike, that was a good one. That was gold right there. And like, the Panzerism today is perfection is the enemy of good. I see this constantly in my day job, right? I didn't make this up, but it's something that I think about and I say a lot. I use that a lot, and I see it all the time. Insistence on perfection often prevents the implementation of good improvements. And I'm constantly seeing people trying to be perfect or too perfect with their analysis and looking for perfection in their data, and obsessing over every decision, and nothing gets done. Paralysis by analysis, everybody talks about it. Like, by doing that, you're wasting valuable time. And D2C Twitter, you can see this all the time. Oh, you need this metric. Oh, first order profitability versus LTV to CAC. Which one? Well, it's probably both, by the way, but it goes back to, guess what? Your model is fucking wrong. So, like, trying to be perfect is just stupid. And how do I know that? Because all models are wrong. We talk about it, like the Imperial College model that scared the living shit out of the entire world when COVID first happened. If you go and look back, it was totally wrong. And I see people trying to be so precise all the time. It's just not worth it. It's a waste of time. There are too many variables. And you know what's not wrong? This month's P&L, last month's P&L. There's a great book from business school that we got in statistics. It's called How to Lie with Statistics. And you should all get this book. I'm telling you, everyone should read this book. It's a short book. It's really fun. And they're not telling you that you should lie with statistics. They're just showing you how easy it is to like misinterpret the data. Going back to everything that Mike was saying, everything is so complex and trying to simplify things. I believe in trying to simplify things, but you got to realize the complexity is always there. And if you're trying to be perfect, you're just going to fail. We were talking this morning about TV spend at Hexclad, about linear versus streaming, linear versus connected. And it's like, we're trying to rationalize our spend budgets a little bit in June, just by the nature of our business. And it's like, okay, well, where are we looking at it? And someone's like, well, we should cut linear, or what? Oh, we should cut streaming. And of course, we're looking at, CPMs and cost per site visitor and all that stuff. But like, who the fuck really knows? Like the data that they're using, use Tatari or any one of these other ones. It's just like, it's just so hard to tell. And even when we're trying to do our budgets, trying to do our marketing budget, like we're growing so fast, it's almost impossible to do a budget because like the next day everything changed, or the next month everything changed. And it's like, well, if I want to have a perfect budget, if I want to get everything right, I will never have a budget. So get it broom clean and mop the floor later. Get it broom clean, mop the floor later. A bad decision is still better than taking no decision at all. Also, by the way, this doesn't mean that you shouldn't have high standards, but you need to know either way that the data is not going to be perfect. And I see this all the time. Perfection is the enemy of good.
Dude, perfection is the enemy of progress. Right? Like just moving shit forward to that point is just incredibly valuable for any business. Like just steps, man. Just take steps. Yeah, I love that, man. It's a common one for us too. Love it. And it definitely, Mike, I think it absolutely is. You kind of you were going to get there anyway. Right? It's like these things are so big.
This is my favorite one so far. I mean, these are like, it's like you're taking words out of my mouth that I say every day. I think it was Patton that said, a good plan violently executed today is better than a perfect plan next week. And we talk, the phrase we use here a lot is bias to action. That when you don't know what the best course of action is, taking a course of action, doing your best is better than doing nothing. And the main reason for that is the only way we get better at anything is through iterative improvement. And people so badly, they want to be good at something. They want to be excellent. They want to do a good job. And so they get kind of paralyzed of like, oh, I don't want to move until I know that it's good. And it's like, if you use that standard, you would never get good at anything. Sean, one of my favorite tweets that you ever put out was like, do you know how you get good at media buying? You set a bunch of money on fire trying things. That's how you get good. You get good by trying and experimenting and iterative improvement. If you said, I'm not going to spend any money on buying digital media until I can do it, at this level, at this kind of, at a 5 ROAS or a 6 ROAS, good luck. You're never going to get started. It's going to be a short career, right? And that's the way it is with anything that we're talented at. Bias to action, get better through iterative improvement. And when I was in college, I worked at a Target. And I think it was the first time that I kind of viscerally understood this. They put me over a section, and your job is to have that section in as good a shape as possible. But it's a little bit like a zoo. People are running around, they're pulling stuff off the shelves. Like it's impossible to keep that the way it's supposed to be, right? There was one night at the end of the day, I'm cleaning up my section. It's towels and stuff. It's the end of the day. It's 10 minutes till close. I spend 45 minutes folding towels. And I get to the end of the row. I see a woman come in with her cart at the end of the row, and she just starts pulling out towels, looking at them, and then shoving them back in. She's just literally destroying everything I've done over the last 30 minutes. And so what they would talk about at Target is the idea of good enough. Is it good enough? And that's what you have to kind of strive for. And it's a great point, Jason. And I also love the idea that the main reason why there's this fallacy of you don't understand, you wouldn't even be able to define perfection if you wanted to,
I'll give you guys so the common rebuttal to this, in consumer is to point to luxury. Mm-hmm. It's to point to Louis Vuitton. It's to point to like the LVMH, the Kerings of the world. Here's the funny thing that most people don't know about luxury goods. One of the core tenets of luxury is that they embrace their flaws. And the best example of this is high-end watches. People spend an obscene amount of money on watches. Now, you guys know this. And the funny thing is they lose time over time. Like they're fucking terrible at their job. But you spend a huge amount of money on a thing that isn't perfect. And yet we do it.
Right. There's this big, go ahead, Sean.
I was just going to say that a Royal Oak is a very bad watch. It's like
an awful watch.
The Casio calculator watch for $45 on Amazon is one of the greatest watches ever made. It'll keep so much time and have a calendar and send your text messages if you want. But the AP, you got to pick it up. You have to check the Casio to make sure you can set the time right. So.
Yeah, I think in brand building, we get stuck in perfect all the time. So I love this one. Jason, this is definitely my favorite one so far. It's great.
I mean, there's a role for, if you think about bias to action, there's a role for times when bias to inaction makes sense, right? Like, hey, you're doing brain surgery, bias to inaction. You don't cut somebody's head open until you know they should have brain surgery. You're launching rockets. Okay. Bias to inaction. Don't press the button unless you know it's ready to launch. You're buying Facebook ads. You're placing an order for tumblers. Bias to action.
Yeah. The risk is low. I have one point and then I have an observation. So the first point is what Jason said was that, any decision's better than, or a good decision's better than, no decision. I would even go a step further to say a quick bad decision is better than a long perfect decision. Like the time in our businesses are so valuable that even if you actually make the worst decision possible, if you do it instantly and then notice quickly that it was wrong and pivot, that is so much more valuable. So, bias to action. No, it's like immediate action, because whatever the choice is, we actually don't know if it's going to be good or bad, right? Like we're just talking about how complex the world is. It's like you could have a thing that you're like, this is going to be a slam dunk, and you'll totally miss. And the best quarterbacks have thrown the most interceptions, right? And it's because that's how you get good at doing it. So just start throwing the ball. And the last observation is, I think all of us have this mentality that like, you should make quick decisions or like, good decisions are better than perfect decisions. And I think that's why all of us are successful, right? Because people who are methodical and plan it out, they just end up never taking an action. But all of us are running these businesses that are high growth and high profit because we're just like, yeah, fuck it, let's do that. That's my go-to responses. Let's just do that right now, right?
Send it. I trust Northbeam because I know the rigor of their analytics. Like they don't compromise. They don't cut corners. And having come from a finance background and being a numbers guy, I know that all models are wrong, but theirs is going to be the least wrong because of that level of rigor. It's like there's a trust when you're dealing with something with a model, the math behind it, the rigor, there's like a million shortcuts that can be taken. I know them for a long time, and that's why I trust that they're putting the level of analytics. It's like Hexclad releasing a new product. We're just not going to do it unless it's great, unless it's innovative, unless it's special. And that's the approach over at Northbeam. So that's why we really, really trust the platform.
You are wasting a fuck ton of money by not using Northbeam. That's my totally unbiased opinion about this, is that, we'll spend $1 million on Twitter this quarter. I only feel comfortable doing that because of what Northbeam tells me, right? I can apples to apples compare inside of Northbeam, a Twitter click versus a Facebook click, right? I can see the value, how it changes over 5 days, 7 days. We look at 1 day click. That's kind of like our whole thing. But because other people look in platform, like of course Facebook's going to fucking tell you it's the best driver of traffic, and so is Google, and so is everybody else, right? So you need a source of truth for your business.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
dude.
I've got a take here. I'll tell you one area where we shouldn't have bias to action, and that's with the way that we treat other people, because I think in myself, like I can get frustrated, right? I can get emotional, and I can want to, if I always operated at a bias to action in terms of how I interacted with other people or how I made personal decisions, that impulsivity actually could be a huge net negative. And I think a lot of the success I've had is I've been able to surround myself with people that are really talented and want to work with me. But a lot of that has been that I haven't been impulsive, and that at times where I've wanted to say something, I've held on to it, and I've been more deliberate. So I don't know that it's like a universal like truth. Like there's a lot of times I shouldn't have a bias to action in my marriage. I shouldn't have a bias to say the first thought that comes into my head. Right. But especially in business and a lot of the fundamentals of what we do. So it's always interesting to me, find these concepts that I love and I apply, but then bound them, kind of figure out, okay, where do they apply and where do they maybe not apply? When is the converse helpful?
Okay.
Very good. Do you guys want to dig into some more top of funnel stuff? Where do you want to go next?
I just want to take a quick second and, talk having a lot of thought and empathy around the way you interact with people. That's something that I probably didn't do well in my early 20s that I'm trying to really do better in my late 20s. Is being mean to someone only has negative outcomes, right? And if you treat everyone with just incredible empathy and kindness, it'll only have positive outcomes. And I think even if I'm just so guilty of that, of trying to dunk on somebody or brushing past somebody or whatever. And it's so much better just to take 3 hours, once every couple of weeks, and just send thank you notes to everybody that's ever helped you. Only good things come out of that. So anyway, this is just the kindness plug. So shout out everyone I've ever met. Good job, everybody.
Well, and I think it's important. We are the type of people that society kind of tells, hey, you can be an asshole and get away with it, right? You've been successful and you can just kind of get a pass, and people don't hold you accountable. And it's one of the reasons why, there can be a real resentment, because there's this, especially this perception of business leaders can be like that, right? They can be real transactional with people and real hey, I'm done with you. If you're, kind of like in National Lampoons, where the boss is like, give me somebody while I'm waiting on that. That we can treat people that way. I think one of the things that I've appreciated about the group is that I see a willingness, like you were saying, Sean, to be self-reflective and to really ask, okay, am I treating people the way that I want to treat people? Because again, okay, we talk about running businesses on this, but so much of running business as well is how you interact with people, and people believing in you and people wanting to work with you. And you can talk all day about mixed media modeling and how we, product development and all that stuff. But listen, if talented people don't want to work with you, if you don't treat people well, it's going to be really hard to build something valuable.
All right, I got to get in on this for 1 second. Okay. Because Sean, Mike, we're burning another Panzerism right now, but it's so it's
a twofer.
I'm just going to burn it. We're just going to burn it right now because Sean, I love what you just said. Mike, same. I literally say this probably twice a week. There's my story, there's your story, and then there's the truth. And you need to think about it that way when you interact with people, because there's the perception of what you just said versus the perception of what the recipient just heard could be totally different. And so being mindful of that in your interactions with other people, I think, is key. And I got that, I'm thinking, having gone to law school, every exam in law school, you have to argue both sides and then come to a conclusion and decide which one wins. And just, I use that all the time. And when you brought this up, Sean, it just totally reminded me of that saying. And I think it's a maturity thing too for a lot of people. So kudos to you, showing that level of maturity. But my story, your story, and then the truth. Keep that in mind when you are interacting with people. I think it will really be helpful.
Okay, I got a story. When I was 18 years old, I managed a Ralph Lauren store. So I was like a sales manager for Ralph Lauren corporate. It was like a whole fucking thing. But it was around Christmas, and one of the employees there, this kid Shaq, he was also like 18, and he moved. His family was like back east, and he moved to the Northwest for some reason. I'm like, oh man, you do anything for the holidays? He's like, no, my family's back east. I'm like, oh, sick. So you just get to like chill by yourself. It's gonna be awesome. And like I just thought I was joking around, like just talking to him. He quit. He's like, yeah, that guy's making fun of me that I'm spending the holidays by myself. And I'm like, and I liked Shaq. He was a really awesome dude. Like I thought we were friends, right? And it's to Jason's Panzerism, there's your story, there's my story, and then the truth. And it's really like, yeah, you have no idea how you're going to come off to people, and you should just default to empathy and kindness, right? I should have just been like, oh man, that sucks. I'm so sorry. And I was like, you're just going to party by yourself. Awesome, dude. Fuck Christmas. But yeah, he took it the wrong way. So,
okay. Let me bring us full circle. I'll give one more concept here, because this is so good. I mean, like we, by the way, if you're listening to this, we totally did not intend on this happening, but that's also the great stuff, is when we just kind of get to talking. Jason's initial point was, right, that imperfect action is better than no action, that you don't get paralyzed. Here's the reality. Bunch of people listen to this. You didn't grow up in a perfect home, right? You didn't necessarily see it modeled to like be encouraging to other people, or to be empathetic, or to be affirming. And you're like, well, it sounds great, but I don't know how to do that. Listen, doing and applying these things, even incredibly imperfectly, is so much better than saying nothing, right? Oh, I don't know how to really encourage or tell my employees good job, because I didn't really, nobody's really done that for me. I've never really had a boss that did that for me. My dad didn't do that for me. Well, you know what? Even if you stumble all over your words and you don't even know how to do it, it's going to be appreciated. That all of the things, empathy doesn't come naturally for me. I have to learn it. I have to work at it, right? I'm still pretty clumsy at it compared to my wife, but like I'm going to have a bias towards action with empathy, right? Even if I don't do it well, because I'm never going to get any better at it if I don't try, and because it's the right way to treat people. And so like, I just want to say to everybody who's listening to this that might have had that experience, like, hey, like we all have areas that we're not very good at and we didn't have modeled, but that's okay. And I just want to encourage you to, do the right thing and to step out, even if it is clumsy, and you'll be thankful you did.
Hell yeah. All right, Matt. I want to hear from you now, dude. We've been talking too long. So let's
No, man. I love this. This is I love it. We're going to do a whole episode just on people and culture and hiring and all that stuff, because I think this is going to be it's a lot of what you guys are talking about. I think is when you're younger, you don't think that this is how it actually is. Like you don't believe this is actually how great leaders lead. Right. All we ever get is the Steve Jobs and the Elons and all that other shit in the media. So it's nice to hear you guys actually all jam on this. So that's great. I kind of want to go to the best categories for D2C, because I think that might be a lot of fun.
Let's go.
And we've not talked about this as a group. Like we've got a whole bunch of different businesses in the chat, and we all know a bunch of D2C brands and other founders. But I really there's a few ways to attack this. We could attack it from what's the criteria that makes for a great like consumer company, or you can just say like, I think these categories are the fucking best, and here's why. So I don't know who wants to go first, but I've never actually heard your takes on this. So I'm now curious.
All right, I'll come out of the chute with a take.
Swing.
Because I think this is going to be, I don't think this is where the conversation would start. The amount of conversation that I've seen around this subject has usually been, okay, you got to have great margin structure, and that means it's got to be small, light, easy to ship, non-perishable. Like there's all these kind of characteristics.
So the rich wallet.
Right, exactly. Basically, Sean. And the opposite of us. But let me give another take. I think the things that are most made for D2C are the things that are made for speed. The things where the rapidness of the internet and the ability to turn on a dime actually plays the most in your favor. And I'm starting to really see this, like with our business. You basically have two businesses that are stacked on top of each other, but you don't know it. And really, I didn't even know it, I think, until this year. We have an everyday business. People have to have water bottles. They have to drink. And that is an everyday business. It's going to be there till the end of time. And we do a really good job servicing that. There's, every year, who knows how many billions of black water bottles the world wants. And then there is a fashion business that is stacked right on top of it that is about impulse and trend and virality. And it is a totally different thing. I used to think about our category because I thought about it in the former, it's just about helping people get water bottles. I had one kind of perspective of the TAM and what we were doing. And then I realized, okay, wait, we're actually running a fashion business also. And we're not just competing with money that people might spend on another water bottle. We're competing with Lululemon and Starbucks and their disposable income budget. And that's a totally different thing. And what we have found, like here, I'll share an insight with you guys and I guess the world about, here's the way that I'm challenging my team. I want to have at least 200 days out of the year. I want a new product to be able to talk to people about. I want to be able to hit people that frequently. I want to be on trend. I want to be frequent. I want to be fresh. And you cannot even come close to what I'm talking. I mean, like, honestly, my goal is I want to be there 365. I want to have something new and interesting and relevant to talk to you about every single day of the freaking year. And I mean, you can never do that in Target. We in mass retail and Target, we just started talking about things that went on shelves today exactly a year ago, right? And they'll be on shelves all the way until next May. So literally, you're making decisions about 2 years in the future. It's just a totally different game. But with D2C, we can turn on a dime. And so anyway, that's my take. I think things that can really leverage speed might be the best D2C businesses.
The speed piece is interesting because I'm sort of writing down my answer right now. I might as well just jump right in because it's part of it. I think there's I think of it as two kinds of businesses that are really nice for D2C. I'm looking at from a product perspective because I always go back to product because it all starts with product. People, I'm just going to say it as much as possibly can.
Yep.
Either you have an easily demonstrable product that you can deliver the demo with good content, or you have a certain type of consumable that you know what it is, and that's that velocity piece to it. Like that's so. The second bit is, on the consumable is sort of not exactly what Mike is saying, but I think it's related. It's like, I know what this thing is. I need to get it a lot, and I'm just going to buy it online. It's just going to, just boom, boom, boom. It's cat food, it's coffee, it's like razors, any of those things. But I think more importantly, or equally important, is just it's got to be easily demonstrable. It's actually really very interesting that this topic comes up because Danny, co-founder at Hexclad, when he started the business and talking about selling cookware online, people laughed at him. People were like, people want to go touch it and demo it and feel it and see it at work. Like, you got to go to the store. And he's like, no, this is easily demonstrable and we can do it. Like, we can do it through a different medium than in person. And even though we have an amazing in-person business, he always believed that the demonstrable nature of the product and the visual nature of the product, if done right. Our best ads before Gordon came on board were Danny doing the demo. And that's hitting on the value props, but not perfectly. So highly demonstrable or a certain type of consumable that just has a lot of velocity. To me, those are the two.
Shoes.
John.
That is the correct answer. Shoes. No, look, I'll say whatever categories we're in are bad categories. Like, Mike, you got a great business, but water bottles have a low AOV. They don't have 90% margins. Not a good category.
Nope.
Jason, pans are too heavy. That's a bad category. Matt,
dude, nobody knows what a fucking Lomi is. It's an awful category.
Yeah, I'm like, you don't
it's
have
a new
category.
One. It's the worst kind.
And look, I said this when I was at a meetup a couple days ago. And nobody wants wallets. Like, literally, you guys, if you didn't know me, you would never think about wallets. You don't want one. Like, no, you want cars, or you want maybe some clothes. You've never actually wanted a wallet in your entire life. So, look, the correct answer is shoes because they are several $100s. They have great margins. They're semi-consumable. It is the only thing that, both genders will spend $1,000 a year on, right? Like guys won't buy underwear, right? But like there's a whole culture of buying shoes, right? And you have different shoes for different activities. It's the correct answer.
Well, it's got that fashion piece I'm talking about. I think it's part of it. It's like they are able to leverage kind of some of the customizability and some of the trends and the fast fashion stuff, as well as being, having all the other characteristics you're talking about. Like one of the big things that we took away from our category, because you're right, we have a terrible category for D2C, but you know what? A lot of women are starting to buy water bottles like they buy shoes. They plan on having 10 or 15 of them. And that's something that's become normative really in the last year or two. Like, it used to be like 2 or 3 years ago, somebody would be like, yeah, my wife has 10 of them. Isn't she crazy? And now it's like, yeah, of course my wife has 15 of them. Like she has one for every outfit. That's just the way that it works. And so, but yeah, I would love it. I would love it if we sold something that was $250, and people bought 4 a year.
Yeah, I talked to somebody from APL shoe company. They're like, yeah, the average customer has 3.7 pairs. And I'm like,
wow.
The average customers have like almost 4 pairs of $200, $300 shoes. I'm like, bro, I'm fighting to get guys who get Ridge wallets as gifts to use them. Like, yeah. So yeah. Matt, what are your thoughts?
I got 2. I think shoes is probably the right answer. I got 2. I'll give you why. So I think, and I kind of agree with everybody, by the way. There's 2 characteristics I look for. One is actually a little contrarian. So I actually think that discoverability is really important, right? If coming out of I grew up in a retail family, like we owned retail stores, 50, 60 years, right? Furniture, like high-end furniture, all kinds of stuff. My grandparents were retailers. My mom was a retailer. So I love retailer. Like even here in London, like the only thing I want to go do is go to Selfridges. Like that's what I want to do. My daughter, she didn't give a shit. So we went and did a riverboat cruise. So what I loved about that type of retail was like the discoverability of new things. And I think that D2C lends itself well to discovery. And a lot of people would disagree with that. They think like, well, there's too much selection, but I actually think that's the Amazon of the world. I think brands, that's the unique opportunities that like we can create new things and get them easily discovered because of this thing called the internet. That's to me, the magic sauce of D2C. It eventually goes to speed and all that stuff, which brings me to my second point, which I think that anything that can be personalized is a great fit for D2C because you can't do it at retail, not at scale, right? And I think that you're seeing even the most high-end brands are going this way, right? And I do believe that D2C is ultimately all roads lead to personalization.
And personalization is something you can moat because it doesn't matter. We live in a world where anybody can source a water bottle, right? But very, very few companies, even like brands that we compete with, very few of them have in-house engraving and personalization capabilities that they control. It requires you to have infrastructure and abilities. And I am always really excited about anything I can tack onto our business that it creates more of a moat or, even if it's hard, like I tell our team all the time, like, I don't care if it's hard. That's the point. Like, I love it when we take on hard things and we incorporate the ability to do it because that means it's another barrier for somebody else to come in. I agree, Matt.
The personalization thing just makes me think of shoes. It's like, yeah, man, I buy like Sean, you're nailing me to a T. Like I buy, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 pairs of shoes a year. I just like shoes. I would love to like actually add personal touch to them though. I hate having the same shit as everybody else.
Right. Yeah. Talking about personalization, that should be a whole separate episode. Like, let's get that before episode 20.
Yeah,
we'll try to get Todd on here. He's the king of personalization.
Oh yes.
Oh man.
Very, very low key. But Mike, you have an amazing personalization business. I've been pitching Jason to go into personalization because I think the higher end your goods are, the more personalization should be offered.
All roads lead to personalization.
Yeah, I mean, the coolest thing Louis Vuitton does is, and I think Hermes has copied this, and Goyard does this, is they'll hire local artists to be at their stores. And when you make a purchase that day, the local artist will paint or sketch or do something on your bag. And that creates a purchase. That is just a purchase becoming a memory, right? Like, oh yeah, that day where I got that, right? It's why Goyard doesn't sell online. It's like, oh yeah, that's the day that I bought that. And like, and that's really what, people are chasing when they buy stuff is dopamine, and memories are great at triggering dopamine. But dude, okay, personalization as a moat. Yeah, dude, it's so fucked because our whole business are optimized that like somebody in China makes something, puts it on a boat, and then like I get a low paid warehouse worker to put it in a box, and I don't have to touch anything. Personalization, you got to pull it out, you got to put it in the machine, you got to make sure it's right, you got to check it, you got to check the message. It just adds like all this like human element to it that's just hard to replicate, especially for
high barrier.
Yeah. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's just end it. So Matt, thank you for calling in from
It's a good one.
the great UK. Jason, thanks for rolling out of bed for this one. I'll talk to you guys later.
Yeah. See you, boys.
All righty.